If you've been applying to healthcare data analyst jobs and not getting interviews, I want you to pause for a second. Because in most cases, it's not because you're bad at data, and it's definitely not because healthcare analytics is a dead end. What's actually happening is much simpler. You're missing one or two things that matter to hiring managers. Is it skills or is it the market? And it's actually none of these. You're just missing other things that you might not be aware that you're missing. Just to give it a little bit more context, I've spent over a decade, 15 years plus, working inside healthcare, and I currently work as a business analyst consultant on the analytics side of a large Fortune 5 healthcare organization. I've reviewed resumes, I've interviewed candidates, and I've worked directly with hiring managers, conducted technical interviews. So everything I'm about to share comes from how hiring actually works and in my experience and not through theory. So let me show the patterns that I keep seeing on in my experience. So there's a very simple formula that I've created for simplifying the process into getting a healthcare analytics job. And that formula is this. It's going to be experience plus your portfolio plus interview skills plus your domain knowledge, your healthcare domain knowledge will be multiplied by your network. When we look at these main areas, you'll be able to see where you are lacking. So this formula is going to build on the foundation of everything that I teach and cover today. So if you're not getting interviews, it means one part of this equation is missing or it's weak. So let's break this down a little further. And this one's a big one. This is actually the foundational piece of the Healthcare Analyst Lab, the community I'm building to help people break into healthcare analytics. So if you're interested in breaking into healthcare analytics, there's a link in the description below. It's free. You just have to apply. And if you're a good fit, you'll be able to get into the program, test out things as I build it specifically for people and in this day and age to make it the best program possible. So we have a bunch of people inside there right now, and I'm about to release some exciting content and teaching of my own experience of how to make this better. So just check that out. There is an uncomfortable truth that most people don't realize, especially aspiring data analysts and people just trying to break into healthcare analytics in general. Entry-level healthcare analytics roles are rare. Yes, they do exist, but there are far and few between them, and they're becoming less and less. And a lot of people apply. They are extremely competitive. So when you see hiring managers say entry level, what they mean is entry level to their team, their department, but not entry level to healthcare. So when I looked at my local job market, most roles wanted 1 to 2 years of experience, and sometimes they combined what they needed with it, whether it was healthcare experience or analytics experience. But you can leverage your healthcare experience into analytics experience or into the job as long as you have the business knowledge. What happens here is this is not advanced experience. It's just you need to get real experience somehow. And people just want to avoid this. But once you can start getting the experience in some way, and there's a lot of different ways of doing it, it becomes easier. So healthcare analytics jobs aren't hard because of the tools. They're hard because of trust. Because when hiring managers and recruiters, one of the biggest things they are worried about is, can you do the job? Are they spending all of this money because there's a lot of money that goes into rehiring, and if it's going to be a bad fit, and then the whole cycle of realizing you're not a good fit and the extra work it burdens the team with is a long period, and it sucks for everybody. The next reason, so excuse my chicken scratch, your portfolio is generic. This is a big one because there's people we'll see. Let's call this tutorial portfolio, and then let's have this side be real experience. And in the tutorial portfolio, most portfolios look the same data sets or simple data sets. similar looking dashboards, same tutorials that people took, same capstone projects. Healthcare, or just data analytics in general, started to become a hot field and industry and role. Data analysts, data scientists, all of those different roles. And then people started to flood into the market. And because of that, there's a lot of tutorials, there's a lot of good content online, but there's not a lot of depth. So now you have to be more competitive and a better candidate when you're applying to roles. When you use the frame and the perspective of real experience, this is the part that's going to matter more. And it's not your fault that you don't realize this, that you're competing against thousands of people who are using the same boot camps, courses, YouTube tutorials, walkthroughs. You need a portfolio that's built on real experience, because that will almost always beat a portfolio that was just built imaginary for a portfolio. Real experience, when you have the frame of real experience, it means real constraints, real stakeholders, real trade-offs, real messiness, and hiring managers can feel the difference immediately. And also, when you frame it, even if you have a simple project, but you're able to deliver real results with that, then that still speaks to the business impact that you can bring. But then when you don't have the real experience in a simple project, it just shows that you can create a simple project, but you may not be able to deliver results while you're on a job. The main exception is if your portfolio project is exactly what the hiring managers need right now. They solve the problems better than all of the other candidates that are applying for the same role. And yes, you can lead with that and that can work. But the reality is you're going to be competing against someone whose portfolio is based on real healthcare work. And they're going to beat you out unless one of two things happen. Either you solve the hiring manager's problems better than anyone else, or you are clearly technically heads and shoulders above everyone else. And then that's the bar. The next reason is going to be is your interview skills. And let me clarify what this means, because it's not just how you interview more than what you think. I want to be very clear about this. Interview skills are not just how you answer the questions in the interview. They include everything that lead into the interview and everything that happens inside them. So that means how you explain, how you write your portfolio and your projects, your resume, your cover letter, how you create your application assets, how you communicate trade-offs, how you show judgment and not tools, how you tell stories, how you build rapport with the hiring manager and all the people that you're interviewing with. People think that they're being rejected because of technical gaps, but in reality, you're being rejected because the materials that you're displaying and how you market yourself don't answer this simple question. Why should I trust you with our data and our problems better than everyone else? And that is one of the biggest things that I see when people lack within interview skills. And then the next thing is going to be reason number 4. This is your domain knowledge. So you have your healthcare domain knowledge, you have the business knowledge, you have the nuances of healthcare, the data sets, and healthcare is domain heavy. It's regulated, it's rule based. Small mistakes can have big consequences. Literally, if some of the data sets that I touch and processes, if I make a single mistake and it gets submitted to the government, we can lose millions of dollars. So that's why healthcare domain knowledge usually gives candidates a huge advantage, because it makes you safer to hire and you understand the nuances of the data. Because I've seen candidates without healthcare knowledge or without the healthcare background get hired, but that only happens rarely. I more often see people get internally hired when they have the healthcare domain knowledge as the foundation and experience, and then they learn the technical skills on the job, or then they learn the technical skills on the side, and then they apply to higher level roles after, because they can now have the experience plus the technical domain knowledge and the technical skills, and then create a portfolio within their job and then get hired. But the other side is I've seen in rare cases people who have the technical background and the technical portfolio because it clearly solves the immediate burning pains the hiring managers are looking for and the problems that they need solved right now. And they also have the communication and interview skills to communicate the value and be able to market themselves, tell stories, and show that they are a great fit to the team and their personalities would be an asset and a pleasure to be around. So that is one of the exceptions, but it's not the rule. It's going to be easier to get the healthcare domain knowledge, have the experience, then combine it with technical skills to be able to move up, especially internally. Last reason, and I know networking is going to be one thing that people don't like doing or they overcomplicate this. Networking doesn't have to be scary. Networking, let's give like a simple formula for this. Networking is just going to be volume times time. The more volume and outreach you do over a longer period of time and building those relationships, it builds your network. Networking doesn't mean you're going to be spamming LinkedIn messages. Yes, that can work, but it's often too scary or people don't like the rejection, even if it's digital. So what you can do is you can just start small. Just start letting people know that you're looking. Start talking about your future direction and goals and technical skills that you're learning. Start reaching out to people who are already inside your personal network or close to your personal network that know your friends. Cold outreach does work, but people massively underestimate how much outreach it does take because when they tell me how much outreach they did, it's vastly under what is needed and over a lot of longer period of time to be able to get a few people to respond to you. And then from that, you have to compound that into more people so that you can actually get into an interview or build your network to get an introduction or a referral. The easiest way is just tell people. And this is something that naturally happens and something I noticed with our friends, with my wife, with myself, is that when people just ask, they're like, oh, how are you doing? What's new? And then naturally it just goes back to work and then they'll ask how's work going. And then you can say it's good, but, or it's bad because I'm stressed or whatever. And I'm just starting to look, or I'm starting to learn these new analytic skills and I want to transition into a new job. Does your company hire data analysts? Do you work in healthcare? Do you know anyone who does? Could you make an introduction for me? Depending on how well you know those friends and how nice or they are willing to put themselves out there. So you have to judge this case by case and person to person, but just putting yourself out there, a lot of people are willing they want to help. And I've found that I've gotten referrals. My wife just recently got referrals into, oh, my sister works at the hospital. I'll make an introduction or I'll ask her. And then the next day, literally, he sent over a bunch of links to open jobs at the hospital. So this has happened multiple times and it can just be easy with just starting here before you dive into cold outreach. What matters more is that you just get your feet wet and then you can go heavily into networking. But it's not the thing that you need to do, but it's one of the things that will multiply your efforts and get you faster into a healthcare analytics role when you have the foundation, which was everything that we talked about earlier. Now, let's go back to the formula because I've seen this by itself with just a single referral beat out technical candidates hearing about friends of friends who were able to break into certain roles because they got in through their network. And you might be wondering, or you might be thinking that's unfair, but part of the reason why this works is because there's a heavy cost for recruiting. And the stats show that there's 1 in 3 candidates who lie. And usually when it comes from a referral and an internal candidate or internal employee who already knows them can vouch for their skills, that saves a ton of money and time compared to trying to vet out people when you have a 1 in 3 chance of them lying. And then the recruiting costs on top of that. I remember seeing different costs leading anywhere from like 20 to 40, 50,000, 60,000, depending on the role of just trying to fill that single role. And then when you make a mistake, you have to refill. When you have referrals and a network, that shortcuts it and makes it, you have a higher chance of that candidate succeeding inside that role. So if you're not getting any interviews, these are the places that you would want to focus on. And to be honest, if I had one single place that I would focus on, it would be this experience. Because you can, from experience, you can build a better portfolio with your, and you can apply the technical skills to build a better portfolio. You'll have better stories for your interviews, and then you'll be able to create a better resume. From your experience, you'll get the healthcare domain knowledge that you need. And then even from the experience, you'll be able to network with people internally and then increase your network. So experience is one of the single things and single levers that would move the needle further, as long as you're deliberate and intentional about growing these other areas. This is exactly what I'm going to be helping people inside the healthcare analyst lab. So I'm working with a small group of people right now to help them break into healthcare analytics by building real experience before the job title, or with the job title, depending on how you try to get that experience. And it's currently free. I just want to understand the real obstacles people are facing today. And if your goal is to break into healthcare analytics and you want my personal help and a community to support you, click the link in the description below, apply to the community. We'll see if it's a good fit. Hope to see you in there if you're accepted. And until next time, career responsibly, and I'll see you in the next video.